Hello, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well and healthy. I'll go ahead and get started, and I'm going to talk about the Respondus tools that we have available to us. Two of them are really going to be coming in handy with our situation with everything going online, and that is the LockDown browser and the Respondus monitor. But there is understandably, some confusion around the Respondus tools. They haven't been the greatest in terms of marketing and the way they name their tools and things. So we get some people thinking that one tool is doing one thing when it's actually doing something different. So I'm going to explain the differences between the three main Respondus tools that we have available to us. So there is the Respondus quiz creation tool. I'm going to go over that first. Then we have the Respondus lockdown browser. I'll go over that after the quiz creation tool. And then as I'm going through the lockdown browser, we'll also talk about monitor because they kind of both work in conjunction with one another. So the first thing is the quiz creation tool. Now the unfortunate thing is I cannot show you because the quiz creation tool only works on a PC. And I don't have a PC here at home. So I can just kind of go over what it does, how you can format and prepare your documents to use with Respondus, but I can't actually show you the software itself. So let me give you a little rundown and explain what the tool is used for. So the main advantage to using the Respondus quiz creation tool is if you have a document that contains all of your quiz questions already made. If you already have that made, then you can take that document, put it through Respondus, the quiz tool, and publish it to your Western Online course as a quiz. So you don't have to start from scratch and create your questions one at a time within Western Online. So you can take, a document with, 50, 100 questions on it, upload it into Respondus and publish it to Western Online, which is kind of nice. Now there is a little bit of upfront work, so the document has to be formatted correctly. There's a certain way it needs to be formatted for Respondus to be able to recognize it and be able to know which questions are correct and what type of questions they are and so on. And on our website, which is www.wiu.edu/CITR, this is our main website. Now, if you go to that URL, we have a temporary site up now, so this is what you will see. But to get to our main website, there's a link here that'll go ahead and open up our main page, which is this here. Now on here, under resources, I'll go to tutorials, and then there's a section here for Western Online. And if I scroll down a bit, I got a whole section here for tip sheets. There's one called Creating Quizzes with Respondus. So there's a web version and a print version. So the only difference there is the web version has a table of contents that's clickable and the print version has the page numbers. And so I can show you a little bit in here in terms of what the formatting needs to look like. So basically your Word document has to be stripped of any formatting whatsoever. So no automated lists or titles or any of that stuff. That all needs to be stripped out. Now you can use Word, but I always use just a plain text editor. That for surely strips everything out. So I'm on a Mac, so I use TextEdit. On a PC, it would be Notepad. So if you use one of those, you're surely going to have all of that automatic formatting stripped out because it doesn't really have any. So the formatting looks something like this. So if I scroll down a bit, I got some examples down here. So here's a multiple choice question right here, okay? And the basic format is this. So I got my question number 1, then I got a period, and I got a space, and then I got my question text. Then down below that, we have our 4 different options. So we have A, B, C, D, followed by a period, space, and then option 1, option 2, 3, and 4. Notice this B here has an asterisk in front of it. So that is the indication to Respondus that that is the correct answer. And so you can see why you can't use automated lists, because if you do that, you can't type in front of that letter. But this is the basic formatting. And it is, I'll warn you now, it is very picky with spaces. So if I have my question number 1, period, and then I don't have a space, it will give me an error. It is really picky about those things. Same with your options. So if I have, A, period, and then I don't have a space there, it will give you an error. So you have to be really meticulous in going through your questions to make sure that they're all correctly formatted with spaces and the asterisk for the correct answer. So then that would be my whole process. So here's question 1, and then I would follow that one with a question 2, space, and then the text, and then my options, okay? So that's a multiple choice question. True, false works pretty similar. You just only have the 2 options, true, false, but again, you put the asterisk in front of the correct answer. You can have multiple answers. So here's an example of that. So you put an asterisk in front of both of the answers that would be correct. Now, if you're going to be doing things like essay questions, this is where you have to add something a little extra to let Respondus know that it is an essay question. So you type out this little line here right before the question. So type : space E, and that lets Respondus know that it's an essay question. Then below that, you put your question number, period, and then make sure you do your space, and then your question text here. So there's, depending on the question types you're going to do, there's going to be different formatting. There's examples here that you can look at, but just keep in mind that if you have 100 questions, you will have to go through all 100 questions and make sure that they are formatted like this for it to work with Respondus, okay? So that could be quicker than actually typing out one question at a time within Western Online. Once the file is formatted and ready to go, then you'll open up Respondus and you'll bring this document into Respondus so you can publish it into Western Online. And that's the part I can't show you. But once you've brought it into Respondus, you can do some editing and things like that. All of the features and all of the options you get within Western Online in terms of timing, setting the dates, and all those things, you get all that same stuff within Respondus. I like to wait until I get it into Western Online and just do all that stuff there, but that's just a personal preference. You can do it before you publish it. When you go to publish your very first exam with Respondus, you have to set up your server. And basically what that means is you have to put in the URL for Western Online, and then log in with your e-com so it can find your courses for you. If you have troubles with this, you may need to contact the help desk, because doing it from home is a little different than doing it on campus. Doing it on campus, it'll find that server information for you because you'd be on the network. From home, it's a little bit different. So if you have trouble with that, just let me know. But once you set up that server, you only have to do that once, because the next time you'll go in, the server that you set up has already been created and you just select it, and then you can go through the process of publishing it into Western Online. So you'll format your document, bring it into Respondus, go through your settings if you want, or you can wait till you get it into Western Online. Then you'll set up your server, find your course, and hit publish, and it'll create a quiz within Western Online with all 100 of those questions. Once it's in Western Online, then you can go in and set the settings there if you want, or make changes or anything like that. So that is the real benefit. Other than that, the only other reason I would see to using this would be if you want to go ahead and have a document backup of your questions, so you're going to put them in a Word document anyway. So really quick before I move on here, on our website, I'm going to show you how to access Respondus. So this has to be installed on your machine. So if I go to resources, in our menu, there's an option here for Respondus. That'll take you to this page. It will ask you to log in with your ecom username and password, but if you're already logged in like I am here, it doesn't ask you. So if you've already logged into Western Online or your Gmail, the single sign-on will know that you're already logged in and bring you straight here. So it starts out, there's a little brief description on the different tools, which is basically what this workshop is. I'm going to tell you about these other two here. But if you scroll down, there's a download link right here. That's how you download it to your machine. You may have to contact help desk if you're on a WIU machine, because it may require admin rights in order to do it. We're not tech support, so we don't have those rights, so we can't do it. So you'd have to contact the help desk. But if your machine is your own personal machine, or it's set up to where you have an admin account, you shouldn't have any troubles. If you get it downloaded, the first thing it's going to do is give you this window, and it's going to ask for this information down at the bottom here. So there's going to be 3 text boxes, one for institution name, one for local support contacts, and one with the installation password. So basically what you'll do is you'll go back and forth from this page in Respondus and just copy paste the green text here into those areas. And then once that's done, it'll be good to go. And the password is valid through July 2020, and then the password renews for the following fiscal year. So you'll have to come back and get the password again. It'll ask you for it. It'll prompt you for that. So once you get it downloaded, make sure you put that information in, and then you can go through that whole, you can go through that whole process there. The next one I'm going to talk about is the LockDown browser. And this is something that you turn on for your quizzes in Western Online that requires your students to have what's called LockDown browser in order to be able to take their exam. And what it does is it locks them into their exam, so they can't go to any other software on their machine. They can't print. They can't take screenshots. It essentially does what the title says. It locks them into the exam, so they cannot do anything else while they're taking it. The way that works, the students have to download it first. And what I recommend you do is do a practice quiz so they can get it all downloaded and set up and ready to go. And then when they go to take a real quiz, it's all set and any kinks have been worked out. But they go to the Western Online homepage here. So this is the system homepage where you have your list of courses. And the students would scroll down, and you can do this too if you want to put it on your machine to test things out to see how it looks. So here's the student resources area here. It's the very bottom of this box right here. There's an installation. So they would click install the Respondus LockDown browser to get it on their machine. If they run into any issues, you'll have to send them over to UTech and they can help them. But it generally works pretty well. It just walks them through the process of installing it. So I recommend, if you're going to use that for your quizzes, that you have them downloaded ahead of time and then do a practice quiz to make sure everything works okay. But to set a quiz up to use it, here's how this works. So I'll go into a course here, and I'll go to assessments, and I'll go to quizzes. And right here I have a quiz. To turn on LockDown browser, I don't really go into the quiz from here. I have a whole separate tab here for LockDown browser. So when I click on that, it'll bring up a list of all my quizzes. It might take a second here. I've only got one quiz in this course, so that's all I see. But if you had, several quizzes, you'd see them in a list here. And over here, I got 2 columns, one for LockDown browser and one for monitor. And right now, it's not turned on, and it says not required. So the student can go in and take this quiz on a regular browser with no problems. But if I want to require that LockDown browser, what I have to do is click this little drop-down arrow here, and then I have an option for settings. So when that opens up, I have a toggle here, and I can turn the LockDown browser on here. So this option for require Respondus lockdown browser for this exam. So I'll click that, and then I get even more options. So at this point, if I just left it like this and I saved it, the lockdown browser will be required in order for them to take the exam. A couple of advanced settings that I do want to show you. You can put in a password if you want to require a password. But if I click advanced settings, there's a couple here you might consider. First one is lock students into the browser until exam is completed. So if this is unchecked right here, the students can start the quiz. It'll prompt them to open up lockdown browser. It'll open it up and lock them out of everything while they're going through the exam. But if this is not checked, they can close the lockdown browser, go to anything else on their computer, and then go back to the quiz and get back in and continue. If you don't want them to do that, you'll want to check this. And what this does when I check this option is they can't get out of it until they've submitted the quiz. So it locks them in until they've actually clicked submit. So that one you might consider. Here, if you want to allow them to be able to do it on an iPad, you'll want to check this. A quick side note, the lockdown browser does not work on Chromebooks, so that's Google's laptops. It will not work on Chromebooks. It does not work with Windows 10S. Now that's different than Windows 10, and it also will not work on phones. So keep that in mind. It'll work on a Mac. It'll work on most PCs, like I said, except for 10S, and it will work on an iPad. So if you want them to be able to use the iPad, you'll check that. Now this option here, if you have a specific website that you'd like them to have access to, remember it locks them out of everything. If you want them to have access to a website, you could turn this on and then you type in the URL of the website here, and then it will allow them to go ahead and go to that website. So if for whatever reason there is something they need to access, you'll want to check that option there. So other than that, for the most part, this is the one that I would use. Maybe in the current situation that we're in, the iPad one, because you might run into a situation where you have, some students that just don't have access to a computer, but they do have an iPad. So, or they have a Chromebook and it doesn't work on a Chromebook, so they'll need to use their iPad. So you might run into those situations. But for the most part, just make sure this is checked and then you're good to go. So if I check that and save it, it'll require the lockdown browser. Now here's what happens. I'm going to go ahead and save this before I go into monitor and show you what it looks like for the student. So right now in my lockdown browser, you can see it now added this to the title, requires lockdown browser. And now over here under lockdown browser, it says required because I've turned it on. If I go back to my list of quizzes, you'll see that title is changed there as well. Now for a student, here's what it looks like. I can't go through it because the lockdown browser locks me out of everything. So it'll shut down Zoom. So I can't do that. But I have created a video to show you. But right now, if I go in as the demo student, and I go to take this quiz, when I click on it, if I scroll down, instead of a start quiz button, what I have here are two options. One, download and install the latest version of lockdown browser. I recommend, like I said earlier, you have them do that ahead of time with a practice one. And then the next one is launch the lockdown browser. I can't click that now because it'll shut down Zoom and lock me out of everything. But let me show you a little video that I did. I used my phone, kind of a workaround here, to record a little video of what it looks like. So this is our temporary web page with a bunch of quick start videos and stuff. And the video is down at the bottom here under assessment ideas and lockdown browser. So let me play you this short little video that gives you the student perspective using the lockdown browser. So what it looks like here. Okay, because lockdown browser, the whole purpose of it is to lock students out of all of the other applications on the computer. I can't use my screen capturing software to record this. So I'm using my phone. So student will go in here and they'll click on the quiz to begin. Scroll down, there'll be an option to download the LockDown browser if they haven't already got that downloaded. Now this is here because I've activated the LockDown browser for this quiz. And then there's a launch LockDown browser. So I'll go ahead and click that. And then it gives you this confirmation window. We'll go ahead and click Open LockDown browser. If there's any apps already open, it'll go ahead and shut those down. Then they click Start Quiz. And then this is what it looks like. So I can't get out of this. I can't right click on this to do anything. If I right click, it actually says I don't have permission. I can't use my keys to get to a different application. So I'm pretty much locked in here until I take this. So I can answer my questions, click Submit, and then Submit Quiz. And down at the bottom, we'll click Done. And then they'll click Exit LockDown Browser. And then Yes to confirm. Then it'll go ahead and reopen any applications that were open and take them back into Western Online. Okay, so that's what it looks like for the student. And technically, I don't know that it shuts down the application, so I may have misspoken there, but it locks them out of those applications. And then when they get out of the LockDown browser, it goes back to all the stuff that was open. Now back under quizzes, I need to get out of my demo student here. And when I go back to quizzes, I'm going to go back into the LockDown browser tab. And I'm going to go back to my drop down and click settings. And because I have LockDown browser turned on, I get this option down at the bottom for Respondus monitor. You cannot use Respondus monitor without using the LockDown browser. You have to turn on the LockDown browser. It doesn't even become available to you unless the LockDown browser is turned on. So you can use LockDown browser without monitor, but you can't use monitor without LockDown browser. So let me give you a quick explanation of what the monitor does. So Respondus monitor uses the student's webcam, and it records them as they take their exam. And you might be saying, okay, how am I going to sit and watch a student take an hour-long quiz? I've got 30 students in my course. There's no way. You don't have to sit and watch every minute of every student. So what it does is it flags suspicious behavior for you. So if there's more than one person that pops into the screen, it'll flag it. If the student leaves the screen, it'll flag it. If they're constantly looking down or talking, it'll flag that for you. Then you can go in and look at all the different flags that it flew up and decide whether or not it's something to be concerned about. If they just dropped a pencil or something, so they bent down to pick it up, they left the screen, it'll flag it. It's probably nothing to be worried about. But if you hear them talking to somebody or somebody else comes into the screen, then that might be something that you might want to look into. And this works. We had this happen with a student last semester where this particular student started the exam, and you could hear her say, you take the lefts, or you take the odds and you take the evens. And you could see a shoulder off the side of the screen. She had two people sitting with her and was having them help her. So she was caught using this webcam monitor. So basically what it does is I have this option here to turn it on. So by default, it's not on. So if I click Require Respondus Monitor for this exam, I get this little pop-up here that just kind of explains what monitor does, basically what I was just saying. It even talks about that $15 annual subscription. And then some things that you might consider doing and might consider telling your students. Don't tell them not to wear ball caps, for example. If they're wearing ball caps, you can't really see their eyes. So they could be looking down at something in their lap and you wouldn't be able to see that. Little things like that. Here's a funny one, and I know a faculty member who had to set this rule because it happened, and that was, men, make sure you wear a shirt. because she was getting students going through their exams without their shirt on. So things like that. So you can read through this. You can check this box here if you don't want to see this the next time you use it. I leave it unchecked so I can show it. But then you'll click Continue to Respondus Monitor. And then you have some options that you can either turn on or turn off. So the first one is always on. So the webcam check, which you want that to be on. And I can preview. I can't actually go into a quiz and use this, but I can show you these previews to see what it looks like for them. So here is the webcam check. And then over here on the left, this is what it looks like for them. So when they click to launch the LockDown browser, this is actually the first thing they get. Once they get into the LockDown browser, it'll take them through these steps. Some of these you can turn off and they won't appear, but right now they're all on. Terms of use is the first thing. They'll click, do you see your image? It is the webcam check, so they click yes if they see their image. And then it just takes them through these steps if you've got them turned on. So that's what it looks like for them. When I click yes, it's not going to go through these steps because it's a preview. It's just going to close this window. After it goes through, it'll record for 5 seconds. So that's the webcam check. But the rest of these here with the checkboxes, you can either leave on or turn off. Additional instructions. That's this stuff here. During the exam, you shouldn't access other resources, things like that. You can change that text. So for the additional instructions, I have an option here to edit the text. So you can put whatever you want in there. So that might be where you put, make sure you wear a shirt. Okay, so something like that if you're going to use the additional instructions. Next is guidelines and tips, and this is just a built-in thing that Respondus Monitor has that goes through to make sure that they're doing certain things like not wearing a hat or sunglasses or anything like that. So those first two there with the checkboxes are kind of up to you, but I would recommend the next two. This one here is called Student Photo. Basically, it has this option where you can have them snap a photo of themselves. Then it moves on to the next step where they show their ID and snap a photo. What this does is allows you to see that they are in fact the student that they're supposed to be. So you know that who's taking the exam is the correct student. So basically in the preview, it'll do the same thing with the camera where they take a picture. There it is again, and they would click continue, and it would move on to the next thing, which is show your ID. So then they would hold up their ID and take a picture. And then this last one here is also something you might consider, and that is do an environmental check. And what that is you'll want them to take their camera or their laptop, pick it up, and do a scan of the room to show you that nobody else is in the room. So preview to see what that looks like. That would come up. Obviously, it's having issues because things are slow. So then they would click Start Recording. And then it's connected, getting ready, and then it says it's recording. And then they could do a scan of the room like this. You could have them go all the way around to make sure that nobody else is in the room. And then when they stop recording, that video will be saved and you can go in and watch that. Okay. So these last three I would consider if you're really concerned about them having anybody else in there and helping them out. So I would leave those on if that's a concern. Other than that, the stuff at the bottom you can pretty much leave. Prevent students from starting the exam if face cannot be detected. Yeah, you want that to work. So once this is turned on, then it will go ahead and record them. Now, one thing to keep in mind is the video could take a little while to process. And I did a small one earlier this week. I only recorded maybe less than 2 minutes. And it didn't take this long, but it told me It's still in processing, could take up to 12 hours. It did not take that long, but it is possible. So if they're taking an exam and you're giving them an hour and a half, it could take a long time for that video to process. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So once you've got all of the options here that you want and everything turned on, you'll save and close. And then you'll see it says now both for LockDown browser and monitor that they are turned on and required. Once the students have taken their exam, you'll come to this same page and you'll click this drop down, and there's an option here for class results. That's where you go to see the videos. There isn't any available here because this is just an example course. I don't have any students in here. But you click the drop down, choose class results, and then you'll see the list of the students who have completed it along with their photo that they took, the photo with their ID, the little video of their environment scan, and then any flags that the system has caught. So you don't have to sit and watch the entire video, which is kind of nice. Respondus LockDown browser, like I said earlier, doesn't work on Chromebooks, doesn't work on Windows 10s. The LockDown browser does work on an iPad, but the monitor does not work on an iPad. It's just something with it's not compatible with the way the camera sensors or the chip or something like that. So iPad works with LockDown browser, but not monitor. So LockDown browser does not work with Chromebooks, does not work with Windows 10s, and does not work with phones. The web monitor does not work with Google Chrome, Windows 10s, phones, or iPad. Okay, so it's kind of tough to remember all that, but just keep that in mind. And remember, you can't use monitor without using LockDown browser. You have to turn on the LockDown browser in order to even have access to monitor.